Hey everyone, so welcome back to another episode of Japan Business Time After Work Edition with
Rochelle Cobb
from Japan Intercultural Consulting. Tonight we've got a question from Stephanie Rawlinson, who was asking actually a really good question about what's appropriate dress code. I think she was asking in the context of for women,
Right.
but this actually launches out into a whole world.
Well, a whole
of
world,
corporate dress codes.
and I think she was also asking about for computer programming people who maybe might dress in a goth style or very, very casual.
Oh,
Is that
she
gonna
mentioned
work?
that. I
Yes.
remember that now. Yes.
Yes.
So this is great, and there is no uniform answer to this, but we're going to go through our best guesses and answers to this. It's a great question.
Some key things to think about.
Yes, wardrobe malfunctions in Japan. Hang around, you don't want to miss it. So let's start with the situation that Stephanie was talking about. So she's into IT, and
Yes.
I've worked in IT where I was wearing jeans and a t-shirt with the saigyofuku for the factory I was at on top. I've worked as probably actually I was more messy than when I was in my pajamas before I went out. So there is a thing. There are definitely different dress standards and expectations in different industries. But
Yeah.
IT at a company where it's relatively okay to go relatively goth by the sounds of it.
Right.
Based on your experience, what do you think is the? There's always a band or a spectrum, but what do you think the dress code sort of standards and what's acceptable for women starting in IT?
Okay. Well, I would say with IT, because I'm in Silicon Valley, so I work with a lot of Japanese IT-related companies. And on one hand, I'm thinking of one of my clients actually a couple of them that are game manufacturers, and they are so casual. And one time I was visiting one of these game companies. It was the first time I was doing a sales call on them, and they were in kind of a small office that didn't have a lobby. And they said, well, just wait downstairs, call me and I'm going to come downstairs and get you. And the guy got out of the elevator, and I just kind of looked past him because I didn't think that this guy who literally looked like a surfer was my client. And in fact, he was a Japanese guy who did indeed surf on the weekends, wearing a t-shirt and really frayed jeans. And I had one of my clients, a Japanese game company, the CTO. I was doing a session with him, and he'd come in from Japan, and he was wearing this beat up concert t-shirt, and he had just his hair was a mess, and I'm like, oh my god, is this my Japanese client? It's just not the guy from Hitachi, so it depends, right?
And you come from a financial services industry background as well.
Yeah, so
the complete, polar opposite end of the spectrum.
Exactly. Yeah, when I worked in the bank in Japan, it was the blue suits and all that kind of thing.
Yes.
So it depends a lot on, even within IT, what kind of Japanese company are you with, and what are the people they're wearing, right?
I got a good one for you. So I'm at an IT company. I don't very often talk about my current job, but I've got a good launch. That's a good launch point for another story that I've got. So I'm in IT, but I'm in IT where people mostly wear suits, or at least in the head office.
Right.
The sales guys like to look flash. They dress up. They're kind of flashy. It's an international, so it's basically for Japanese who are sort of ambitious, go to the sort of a company. So there's no imposed. It's not like a bank where people have to wear grey tie and blue suit or anything like that. These are guys who actually wear suits because they want to look good in suits. They do the hair.
The whole thing. Yes.
The whole thing.
Okay.
So that's the kind of culture of the place that I'm in. However, there's a real big shift happening at the moment throughout IT globally. Of this shift of going from old-fashioned, coming into major corporations, helping them restructure their business, helping them redesign their system, to actually all of these things like going into the cloud and developing iPhone apps and developing artificial intelligence and getting logarithms, and the logarithms and the mobile applications. These come from places where people dress like the people that you're talking about.
Right, exactly.
And so the big shacho in the big company meeting last year said, we are going on an acquisition spree because we need to acquire these talents. And I think everyone in the company is going to have to get used to seeing people that look different to the rest of us around the office.
It's diversity, right? In a different sense.
And it happened. I mean, around about 1 or 2 months after that, there had been an announcement of this M&A of this major sort of very famous sort of lab for leading edge sort of IT development, and we had the long hair surfer ripped shirts in an office where people really, it's almost like a host club. People are really dressed up. And I'm not an elitist. I'm really not, and I don't go over the top with that sort of stuff. I try to keep up an appearance, but I remember when I first saw. I think the first time I saw one of these guys get off at the elevator, I'm like, dude, I think you're on the wrong floor.
right. They looked out of place. They looked out of place.
But you know what? They're sitting there, they're fitting it. And you know what? It's actually making the suits look at them nervously because they know those guys' jobs are more safe than my job. I've got to, they're all kind of looking at them thinking, geez, I've got to learn what these guys do.
Interesting.
But that's a specific case.
Okay. Well, I want to go back and talk a little bit about dress for women because I get a lot of questions about that from American women who are doing business with the Japanese.
Yes.
And I get questions like, is it okay to wear a pantsuit?
Yeah.
And yes, it is okay to wear a pantsuit. Generally, what I tell women is you want to avoid red and pink and floral patterns, anything frilly, anything really low cut, anything tight. You want to avoid that overly feminine kind of look.
Who'd want to be a woman? I mean, yeah. You know what? When I started back in the old days, when there were only like 5 female employees in my 90 Dorky, they would wear, in the photo, there'd be all these guys, white shirt, black suit, and there would be these little floral, bright red dress or floral dress, sort of, interspersed, and it was kind of like that. Women used to have this kind of freedom with the dress code that the guys didn't have.
Yeah.
But at some point about 10 years ago, new hire women adopted this uniform, basically the same as the guys.
It's the same as the guys, yeah. And that's what I would recommend because it makes you look like you're serious. Yeah.
Yes. Well, there is a thing with across the board, not just with dress code, but as we talk about with work and whatever, and about how small things are big things. It's evaluation is more a process of elimination than it is positive affirmation. I think.
Right. Yes.
Standing out. Although we come from cultures where people try to stand out, they want to draw attention to themselves and the great work that they're doing.
It's not necessarily a good idea in Japan.
In Japan, drawing attention to yourself, it's only inviting someone to walk over and criticize something. So, but there is this thing, people will pay a lot of attention around and try to look like they are the guy who's trained the hardest to be in the middle of the band.
Right.
So fashion-wise, so what is your... So, I mean, you gave a lot of things
to
wear.
So generally what I tell American women is to be wearing... It can be a pantsuit or a skirt suit. It doesn't matter. I recommend black, navy blue, tan, brown. Yeah. Blues and greens tend to be okay, right? And it has to just be something that maybe is a little bit more dressed up than most American businesswomen would wear right now. Yeah. Particularly on the West Coast, more dressed up than they would be doing. Yeah. And to avoid too much jewelry. Yeah. And too much perfume.
That, and you've been in Japan too long, man. I could do a whole list, but I tell you, sometimes these lovely, very professional, fantastic people who come in from overseas to help us with work, right? And you go down the elevator with them, and I'm almost going to press the button halfway down just so I can take a breath. Right. I have become I've become oversensitized, I suppose.
Right. A lot of Japanese feel that way too. Yeah, Japanese don't wear a lot of scents, and it's you're in tight spaces in Japan a lot. It's not a good idea.
Yeah. The going overboard with the perfume is a real no-no in Japan, and people won't tell you. So yes, you have to tone that down. Guys as well. I mean, guys will do the cologne and stuff like that. You always know when there's a newly arrived expat nearby. You can smell them. Oh, no. And it's actually sometimes it's not even that bad, but it still is like I shouldn't be able to detect you. I'm not a lion in the savannah. I shouldn't be able to detect you before I can see you.
Right.
So yes. The other thing which I would say for guys it's easier because in the end of the day it's just suit, tie and whatever. It's a much easier uniform to go along with. But if you're in a more conservative company, not all companies are like this at all, but more conservative companies will be conscious about loud colours. I mean, same as what you were just saying.
Or like you don't want to have the really loud ties. There are a lot of American guys wear those, and that's just not a good idea for Japan.
There is a thing, you'll never see a Japanese guy, I don't think I've ever seen a Japanese guy wearing like a suit with a red tie, power tie. Japanese don't do power ties.
No, they do not. They do subtle and understated, yes.
And I remember I had a red tie that I brought to Japan. I remember people stopping and saying, yeah, that looks like a gaijin tie. I didn't take that the wrong way either. But and I remember once when I was at this Tokyo Marine, when I was wearing like a yellow Australian, it was like an Aboriginal design kind of yellow tie. And my boss came up and said, you really think it's appropriate to be wearing a tie like that? I didn't think it was a present from a friend. I wasn't thinking anything of it. But they will sometimes say if it's a little bit too loud. So Yeah, sometimes going a bit too crazy. Also, new hires, wearing coloured shirts is sort of a privilege you have to earn.
Right, yeah.
There is a bit of a timeline. A new hire wearing like a red shirt under a suit, that's drawing negative attention normally.
Mm-hmm. Right,
so they will lecture. So yeah, again, small things are big things. Some things which we might not even think to pay attention to are being paid attention to.
Right. And Japanese notice these things, right? Yes.
And they won't tell you that they're noticing it either. So it'll come across in weird ways. So it's a great question. What the dress code? That's it. In terms of Stephanie's concern.
Right.
IT companies are definitely much more laid back. I've been in jeans and t-shirt with the jacket on top, kind of a thing that can happen. Some extreme, some of the real leading edge IT places, they might even let you come in. I wouldn't say don't do it from day one.
That's what I was going to say. I would say, well, but definitely for the interview, you want to be more conservative. And then from day one, wear something more conservative, and then see what other people are wearing. That's what you have to do.
And maybe if you want to decide where you want to work, try to get a look and see. If you can see there's someone over there with blue hair and piercings, which I've been into companies recently with blue hair and piercings, maybe that's the company for you. But don't show up at the interview looking like that person.
Right, yes.
Show up looking, kind of straight-laced.
Yeah, exactly. A little bit conservative. Yeah, exactly. And then see what's going to work.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, wait, we didn't even mention about tattoos. We have to talk about that. And hair.
And hair,
We have to talk about those two things.
We have to touch on these. Okay,
yes,
no, that's right. We can't skip this.
That's true. Tattoos.
Tattoos.
You have to have your tattoos covered up.
Yeah.
Yes. Japanese just can't deal with them in business context, basically.
Well,
so.
And again, maybe the surfer boy company, maybe people will discover at the nomikai where someone's rolled up his sleeves at the end of the day and there's a little teddy bear or something on it. Who knows? Maybe they'll let these secrets out. They'll let their guards down. But certainly at the job interview, the warming up, whatever, even though it is becoming slightly more common now for people to have fashion tattoos, they will absolutely not show them, and it'll be absolutely understood that you are to keep them covered up.
Right, exactly, and it's still in Japan. It's really considered. It's just it's not considered cool the way it would be in other countries.
Yeah, people say, well, it's changing, and there's some small truth to that. But if you're going into any company with any sort of conservative to frankly even quite liberal, you need extreme liberal to be able to tolerate visible tattoos in an office. Or a mob office. If you're going to work in a mob office.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other thing, right? Yes.
So again, it's a bit like the piercings and the blue hair. You might be able to get to the point that other people might know that you have them, but do not lead with that stuff.
Right, because the thing is with Japanese is you have to look like you're in your role, right? There's a role and there's a costume for your role, and you just have to dress the part for what you're doing.
Yeah.
And anything that doesn't match that is just distracting, and they'll focus on that rather than anything else.
And again, like we've just been saying over and over, the small things matter. Appearances matter. They will judge. The other thing, I haven't dealt with tattoos so much, or piercings. If you have the nose piercing, I know we're all proud of how we look and so on, and we want people to accept us for who we are as people.
Right.
Companies are not your family. They're not. And they don't have. It's not their obligation to accept you. And if you're looking for the company that's going to accept you with blue hair and nose piercing and so on from the get-go, you're never going to find a place that's going to take you in. They might eventually, when you become your family and accept you for that, that's possible. But don't take that for granted from the beginning. I think you have to go through the motions and show them the respect of taking the steps that they expect you to take.
Yeah.
So, again, take the nose piercings out. And the other thing, and I can tell you from personal experience, we've had a Japanese guy who'd been working in California for a long time. Oh, my favorite job interview ever. I'll tell you about my favorite job interview ever.
Okay.
Been in California a bit too long. And I like Californians. They're some of my favorite people are Californians.
This can happen, yes.
But this was a Japanese guy. He got a bit too native, and he came back, and he was so there he was in the interview with 2 or 3 buttons unbuttoned, wild, fabulous sort of hair, and was telling the story. We asked him, so we're kind of looking at him like, you come to us like this? And even I was kind of looking a bit sideways, but I was with very conservative people. Hiring in Japan is done by consensus. It takes one blackball.
Yeah,
so you have
to be careful.
Even if 4 people think that you're cool, if one other person doesn't think this is cool or acceptable, you're out. So you have to take this into account. So we're both looking at this guy, and this guy, I'm still thinking, well, I like it. I like someone different. I like diversity. So let's give the lad a chance, even though I could tell the person next to me he was already finished from the beginning. we went through. I asked him, why do you want to come to a company like this? And he said, well, when I was in America, I worked for a company where I was the assistant of the local sales rep guy, and he took me around everywhere. And he kind of took me under his wing and he trained me. He took me out to golf every day. I mean, half the day we wouldn't even go into the office. We'd just go and play golf in the afternoon. And it was such a great lifestyle. And, having experienced that once, I just want to find that drug again and shoot it up in my arm. This is a Japanese person said this.
My goodness!
I laugh.
Why did he want to come back to Japan? I mean, it's just...
he was obviously insane.
Okay, there's lots of different people in the world.
There are.
So the moral of the story is?
The moral of the story is... don't be too honest. I mean, and this comes down to, seriously, the person beside me, he was already, frankly, out from the moment he sat down. He never had a chance in this interview. I was gonna hear him out, and I was maybe going to go bat for him if he had a chance. But the person next to me, he was out from the moment he didn't cut his hair for the interview, and he didn't have the buttons done up properly. That was disrespectful to that person, and other people took it the same way. He's taking the piss, frankly, is the expression we would use. And they'll never let you know. They'll smile, they'll shake your hand, they'll see you out, they'll say, yeah, we're a diverse company, we like all types of people. I know we have people on our team who have longish hair and so on, but they've proven themselves. They're very
right, yes, exactly.
You don't come to an interview like that. I know a guy, I fought for a guy who was blackballed because he had a slight goatee. A tidy goatee, and he was a great catch, and I had to lobby.
And that's the thing. I can't. It's very sad that Japanese are so against the facial hair, because so many Japanese men look really great with goatees.
Yeah, I thought he looked cool. I mean,
I remember one of my Japanese business school classmates had a goatee, and it was very flattering on him. Yeah. And one day he came to class, and he'd shaved it off, and I said, "What happened to your goatee?" No, the people from his parent company were in town. Oh. Visiting, he had to shave it off. It was like, it's a crime against aesthetics. It looks so good.
The thing is, hair grows back. Facial hair grows back. Unfortunately, it just takes one person, and usually it's not just one person, that will take it as a sign of disrespect that you don't do those things that are expected, which are that you tidy yourself up.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but with dress code, you dress respectfully, you cut the hair, you shave off the beard. And once they get comfortable with you, you can grow it back. Or whatever,
maybe you can see when you can take those steps, right?
Yeah, but don't take that.
So start off conservative, and people are going to judge. So why do you need to push on those things?
Yeah,
right.
All very good points. Yeah, this is endless. I've just realized we could go on about this forever.
I don't know, but we should probably wrap this up.
But we have another episode to go to, which will be coming back next week, where we will probably be wearing the same clothes again.
Yes.
After work, the open and honest session about working in Japan with
Rochelle Kopp
from Japan Intercultural Consulting. See you again next week.
Bye.
Bye.